Back in the late 90s or early 2000s, and if you had a Mac such as this Power Mac G4, how could you run PC software on it? Remember, these are the days well before the switch to Intel processors, which opened up the Mac hardware to running Windows natively via Boot Camp or under virtualization using software such as VMware Fusion or Parallels. A number of years earlier, Apple did release DOS compatibility cards, which were effectively a full x86 PC on a PCI card that you would install inside your Mac. You could then run the macOS at one moment and via a keyboard shortcut switch to DOS or Windows. This did of course have limits, and applications couldn't be run side by side. But when a machine such as this was released in the early 2000s, Apple no longer sold such cards. Orange PC and a few others did, but they were prohibitively expensive. After spending thousands of pounds on a new Mac, the idea of spending another £500 or more on a PC compatibility card probably put a lot of Mac owners off. Instead, for simple tasks such as running applications like Internet Explorer to access certain PC-only online banks, or running applications such as Microsoft Access, which were and still are not available for the Mac. Around this time, Apple were trying to claw back market share, and the iMac had brought a lot of new users to the platform. However, if you were not in the know or had little computer experience, like a lot hadn't at the time, and inserted a PC CD-ROM into a Mac and attempted to launch a Windows-only application, you would get an error message. There was good news. The good folks over at Connectix and Insignia Solutions had an answer. These companies had both been releasing PC emulation software for a good number of years. Their software emulated an entire x86 PC in software, but with a significant hit on performance, as their applications had to dynamically translate x86 instructions over to PowerPC and vice versa. However, the performance was more than adequate for light use. Here is my copy of Virtual PC 4.0, which includes a full copy of Windows 98 2nd edition. There were other versions available with DOS or Linux or Windows 2000 or Windows ME. Inside the box we see a user guide, some marketing information, an application serial number, and the CD. Upon putting the CD in the reader, macOS will present you with the folder where the installer can be found. Installation is pretty basic, but it will take a short while. The installer has to uncompress a virtual disk image over to your Mac's hard drive. I've speeded up the installation process to save you the agony of watching the progress bar slowly march across the screen. Once the installer finishes, you simply find where the application was installed to on your hard drive and launch it like any other regular application. Upon launch, you can see the Windows 98 virtual machine listed, and this is where any other virtual machine you have will be listed too. When starting up a pre-configured virtual machine, you are given a few options to change memory settings, add additional drives, and configure COM ports. We then have to wait for Windows to boot for the first time and run the out-of-box experience, which will require the provided product key. Also, while running Virtual PC for the first time, you will also have to enter a separate serial number. The first boot takes a while, so again I've speeded up the footage. We are then asked for a name, to accept the license and agreement, and then enter the Windows product key. After that, you choose your time zone and Virtual PC will boot into the familiar Windows desktop. The Virtual PC shares the Mac's optical drive. In this version, you are unable to use ISO disk images. Now when we put the CD in we tried earlier and open up the same application via Windows Explorer, you will see that it starts up without an issue. No silly error messages this time. This is a 3D home design application published by Expert Software that I used to spend many a happy hour designing houses and then flying around them in 3D. The graphical glitches in the application are not a result of Virtual PC. The software behaves just like this on any other hardware it is run on. Success! Virtual PC even allows the unmounting of disks via right-clicking on the drive in my computer and choosing Eject. It is worth noting that as the Mac only has one mouse button, a right-click can be achieved by pressing the Control key and clicking. So what about games? If my 3D home design application worked out, is it possible to run games? Let's find out. Here is a terrible game from Sega called Bug. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to do the maximum install, which takes a whopping 50 megabytes of disk space. Once the installation is finished, we are given the option to play the game. However, Windows is currently running in 16-bit colour and Bug requires a lower colour depth. To change this, we control-click on the desktop and choose Properties and then Settings. We can then select 256 colours and then go back to playing the game. The game can also be played with a joystick, but I do not have a USB one to try it, so we'll just play with the keyboard. You'll notice the windows behind the game flickering when it's played, which is a bit annoying, so I've closed them. You also have to set the video quality to low, or else you end up with some very odd graphical glitches, which happily don't show whilst playing the game. For those of you with a keen eye, you'll notice the CD on the Mac's desktop has mounted two sessions. The first is the actual game session, and the second is a CD audio session where the awful music is played from. The gameplay isn't too bad, with the odd few drop frames here or there, but it is pretty playable. So, a basic 3D platform game runs well. What about something else? Here we have the PC version of Sonic CD. For some reason though, when this game is inserted, the audio track doesn't mount, and therefore when the game plays there is no background music. The full installation takes a massive 155 megabytes of disk space and will take a few minutes to install. This game also requires the colour depth of 256 colours. Now the game has crashed here and I suspect it's trying to find the audio track for this part of the game, however the machine for some reason can't read it. Of course, what demo of Windows would this be without a quick game of solitaire? As you can see, cards draw quickly and can be moved around the screen with very little glitches. And let's have a quick doodle in Microsoft Paint. All in all, for a software solution, I think Virtual PC was great for getting you out of a fix when you quickly needed to run a light Windows application or a basic Windows game without the need for additional hardware. Hope you enjoyed it, thanks for watching.